So then put it in an airtight container, put it in the fridge. Then I forget about it. Then it goes bad. Then I got to throw it away. Now I was trying to keep my money organized, but now I'm wasting food. And the cycle just continues and continues. So everything, we like order. Part of being alive, part of having this power. We're talking about Genesis here. In Genesis chapter 1, in the beginning, right? God created the heavens and earth. The earth was without form and void. It was in a state of entropy. It was in a state of chaos. And God brought, as Genesis says, let there be light. Now the light is separated from the darkness. Now here come the rest of the order of things. But even in the order, everything that comes alive has a time that it comes alive. A blade of grass comes up from the ground, and then it gets to be a blade of grass for as long as it's a blade of grass. But then sooner or later, it goes back into the earth, back to a state of entropy, back to the nutrients, back to the soil, back to the water, back to the chlorophyll, right? So everything is prone to a state of entropy. You can look in the world. Now we swore 2025 was going to be the year that things got together. We're going to pull it all together. But did you see how January went down? Did you see the wildfires in LA? Nobody wanted that chaos. Nobody planned for that. I don't think anybody planned for that chaos. I almost forgot about the New Orleans truck bomb. Almost forgot about the cyber truck in Las Vegas at the Trump Hotel. Then it was snowing in Houston. They were making snowmen in Houston. It's chaos. Then your president got inaugurated. I don't know if I might get deported if I say Black History Month. I don't know. Then a military plane, helicopter, flew into an American Airlines plane. Then I was looking at the news on that, and they said, "Did you see the plane crash?" I said, "Yeah, I saw the plane crash. It was in D.C., 4 miles from the White House." And they said, no, not that plane crash, Philadelphia. Chaos. The world is always, no matter how much order you try to put on it, no matter how much organization you want to bring to it, we're able to do that in little pieces, but overall, the word is entropy. There is a tendency toward chaos. Now, what is bringing this chaos about? Take the fires in LA. We didn't want to see that. There's entropy and there's enthalpy. I'm not going to get too deep into this. Enthalpy is the fact that there's enough energy in the system for it to work, but entropy is that it tends to not work. For example, with the fires, there's enough water in California not to be a fire. There's enough firefighters. There's enough full-time politicians working. There's enough energy in the system to prevent chaos, yet for whatever reason, things will tend back toward chaos. There's enough expertise, I would think, 3 pilots on a Black Hawk. There's enough expertise. And did you know that the Black Hawk can fly without a pilot? But I'm going to get into the conspiracy right now, but I'm just saying. There's enough expertise, there's enough technology not to crash, not to have chaos, yet the world somehow seems to be trending toward entropy, trending toward chaos, trending toward disorder, trending toward randomness. And the fight, whether it's in the kitchen or in, cleaning the living room, or whether it's on the government level, whether it's on the global scale, to be in control is what we are going for a lot of the time. Matter of fact, if you could define happiness, part of happiness is having things go the way you want them to go. That's one definition. Being in control of a situation, that's happy. If I can have a grip on it, then I'm in control, then I'm happy. Now, all the Tower of Babel was an attempt to fight entropy. It's like God is kind of hard to get at sometimes, but when we get at God, it feels so good. We know it's right. I have an idea. Let's build a tower so we can get there once and for all. That's all they were trying to do. It says it in Genesis. They said, come, let us build ourselves a city with a tower that reaches to the heavens, so that we may make a name for ourselves. Otherwise, we will be scattered across the whole face of the earth. So they're trying to, it's unpredictable, it's chaotic. You try to get to God, sometimes you come to church, getting to God, sometimes the right song comes on and it works. Sometimes I come to church and sit down and really try and nothing happens. It's chaotic. So what if we could just build a tower? What if we could get there and stay there? That's all we want to do. Then, we also make a name for ourselves. If we don't bring some order to this thing, if we don't figure it out, if we don't create something out of the chaos, it says we're going to be scattered over the face of the whole earth. Now, is that so different from, we talked about Black History Month. Is that so different from what the Euro brothers and sisters did? Hey, there's enough gold on that continent. There's enough human resources on that continent. We can build whatever we want. Let's do it. What's wrong with that? Well, what if they get educated? Because if they're educated, we can't keep them enslaved. Well, just make sure they don't get educated, because we're going to keep it in order. We're going to keep everything in order the way it's supposed to be. Make sure they don't get educated. Well, what if they want to stay as a family? Sell them. Because we got an order here. We got a nation to build. We got a land to conquer. We got gold to mine. And they're just in chaos. They're just barbarians. We're going to bring some order to this entropy. That's all they're doing. Right? Well, what if they don't want to be enslaved? Just like I said, with the room, dust, mop, sweep, rinse, right? Well, what if they don't want to be enslaved? What if they kill, crush, colonize, destroy? Get media to make sure they're telling the story the way we need it told. Get politicians so that I can bring some order to the chaos. The universe trends toward entropy, but so that we can have order. We can have a world order. And then what happens when that world order doesn't work? Well, we're going to have a new world order. But we're going to bring some order to the situation. Okay. Can you see this is what we're doing in life? Let's take control. We don't want change. But even now in this, so our brothers and sisters said, yeah, we're going to colonize, we're going to conquer, we're going to dominate, we're going to bring some order to it. But do you understand that no matter how much order you try to bring to something, it only took one hell no from Harriet Tubman to shake up the whole thing. It only took one hell no from John Brown to shake up the whole thing. It only took one. From one, enough is enough. I'll put it that way. From how many? Unnamed. Now it continued into the 20th century. It only took one, enough is enough, from a Rosa Parks. Now we're shaking up the whole thing. There is a tendency toward chaos. We try to bring it back together. I think what I'm getting at today is sometimes we need to embrace the chaos. Sometimes we need to embrace that entropy, embrace that randomness, because that's the only way we can receive something new. There is nothing new except what comes out of the chaos. When God created heaven and earth, the whole thing was chaos, bringing order to it. So how can I bring order to something unless I embrace the chaos? Have you ever been in that situation before? The more you try to control a situation, the more you try to control a person, the more they get away. The more you try to watch every penny, here comes chaos. But then have you been on this side of the coin where if I embrace the chaos, if I embrace the randomness, if I embrace, get on the airplane, see somebody, I don't want to sit next to that person. Sit next to them, realize that's my next job. That's the conversation. That's the introduction. That's the opportunity. But it came out of the chaos. See, me trying to order things is me trying to put things where I think they belong, when God has spoken through science and said, you don't know where it belongs. It belongs in what seems like a randomness to you, but it really is an order. So I think what I'm saying here is, to embrace the chaos to receive what's new. We need this entropy. We need this unknown aspect. We need to not know what's next in order to have something to create in the first place. We need entropy because that is what gives us the power to innovate, to adapt, to step out of the comfort zone, to see something new. How can anything go from what it is to what you want it to be without embracing the unknown? If I have something I've been fearing, dreading, avoiding for years, and then one day I say, well, it's time to do it now. You can fill in the blank on that. I got to embrace the unknown. The reason why I haven't embraced it yet, or tackled it yet, or attempted yet, is because I don't know what it's going to look like. But to get from where we are to the full, well, let's put it the way I want to put it. Yes, we're in the fullness of God right now, and everything is everything. But there's a here and there's a there to it too. God is everything, and guidance is the place to be, and all that. And I need about 50 more people in this room right now. Pardon me, I require. All right. So from here to there, it's gonna be something different from what we all know. And if it's gonna be different, at some point, it's gonna be not the same control that we had before. Because there's certainly enough people, what about enthalpy? There's enough people in this neighborhood to fill up the church. There's enough people that need this message. There's enough people that would appreciate the music. There's enough people that need a hug. But maybe you have been embracing what is for too long. It's got to look different. It's got to have an element of chaos. It's got to have an element of the unknown, because we don't even know what it looks like and feels like to be where we really want to go. Do you know that without this chaos, without this unknown, without this randomness, without this entropy, everything would stay the same forever? Do you know that the only way that new things can be built up is that when old things break down? Don't you know that even in our bodies, old cells die, but new ones replace them? What if the new cells came in before the old cells died? You know, you think some folks look funny now. What if the leaves didn't decompose? There'd be no nutrients for the new leaves to grow. If the old ideas are not challenged, there's no room for new discoveries to emerge. So when we embrace the mess, that's how we change it. But just like cleaning a house or anything else, when you ignore the mess, it gets messier. A couple more things coming out of this Tower of Babel. It says in the story, and these are just things to look at, things to think about. It says in the story that they said, okay, well, let's build this tower. Let's do it. We're going to build this tower. We're going to use bricks instead of stone. Genesis chapter 11. I'm like, okay, I just read that, but then I had to go back. I said, wait a minute. Bricks instead of stone. I can see right there why that might have hindered their progress. What's the difference between bricks and stone in construction? Stones are stones. I've been places where they build a house with stone. You find a stone this big, this is one stone, you find another stone. No two stones are shaped the same. So you got to stack them, then you got to find a way to make them fit together to be the size and the thickness and the width that you want for a wall and for a house. But then somewhere along the way, someone had the brilliant idea, what if we use bricks? Because bricks, every brick, 6 inches long, 2 inches tall, 3 inches wide, right? Every single brick is the same. But it takes more energy to make the bricks. Now I'm making the bricks. Now I got to have quality control for the bricks. Now I got to have labor for the bricks. But it looks the way we want it to look. It has order to it. It makes sense. Think about that in our own lives. What ways are we preferring bricks over stones? There are things in life that I could ask myself, is it a brick or is it a stone? The stone is what comes naturally out of life. The stone is the flow. The brick is me trying to order and make sense of things. And now I'm not saying we can't make sense of anything. I'm not saying we can't organize anything. But don't you know, no matter how much you plan, at the end of the day, it's up to God. If you're a football fan, you're going to watch the Super Bowl next week. I'll tell you, both teams are praying. Both cities are praying. Both cities are making their bricks. But only God is going to determine how it's going to turn out. Now, that's just one example in life. But for anything, God has handed us, in any case, does this resonate? God has handed us enough stones to build what needs to be built, but we're still complaining about when are we going to be able to make some bricks? When whatever, by definition, as soon as my mind, my consciousness turns to something, decides on something, fixates on something, intends on something, expects something, knows something, believes it, its construction has already begun. That has nothing to do with bank account, reputation, or anything else. This is the power at work. But now I will take the power at work and disregard it and look for a coach to tell me how to do it. Look for a new system, a new doohickey. Have you seen this where folks will have a gift of baking, a gift of massage, a gift of anything. And now as long as they can just do it, they're good at it. But then someone gets the bright idea, you should start charging for this. There's nothing wrong with that, but I'm saying, doesn't it change it though? And I'm not saying don't change it. I'm not saying don't charge for it. I'm just saying it changes it. You go from the stones God gave you, now we're trying to work with bricks. Here's another thing that came out of it. God said, okay, they're building this tower. This ain't going to work. Let me confuse their language. And like I said, at a first glance, that sounds like, well, God didn't want them to get too close to God, so God confused their language. But I don't know about that. Language has always been confused. The word confuse means to be mixed together to the point that you can't tell them apart anymore. I'm old enough to remember, do you remember this? The first time someone said, yeah, man, that's bad. And then you had to explain, no, bad means good. That's the confusing of the language. And then the generation that hadn't heard that before said, y'all crazy. But don't you see that this is the way new things happen? Don't you see that anything new, when it's new, by definition, is unfamiliar? You can fight it if you want. You remember this? You remember when email came? And some folks said, I ain't doing that. Don't mean no harm. You can fight it if you want to, but now 2025, email's almost old. We ready for the next thing. Remember when Zoom guidance, I say guidance because I always think about guidance. When COVID hit, now we got to jump on Zoom, and the first one, I ain't doing all that. Well, you ain't doing much if you ain't doing that. Now, lo and behold, we found a way to get it done. There's beauty in when things are confused. There's beauty in, and I'm talking about the chaos. I'm talking about that is the opportunity for something new to come about. And then, of course, with the Tower of Babel, there's this idea of an unfinished tower. Now, when I look at it, it says the Lord scattered them. They were all together working on a plan, and then the Lord scattered them. Now, if you know religious science, you know God is not a puppet master up there scattering them. They scattered themselves. So it says the Lord scattered them. Well, where is the Lord? Right now, let's talk about that. From all over the earth, and they stopped building that city. And now at a surface level, what a shame. They weren't enough in God's will, and so they started something and they didn't finish, and God wasn't pleased with it, and that's what happened, right? Well, Lord, how many unfinished towers do you have in your life? But what I've learned about the unfinished towers is they're part of the later construction. What do I mean by that? I've been preaching for a while. I mean, today, I have been preaching for a while. I meant 25 years. Now, the sermons at age 22, 23, let's just say I'm glad nobody was recording. But I'm glad we built those unfinished towers, because if I had not done those, you'd still be hearing the 22-year-old sermons. So these are unfinished towers. Well, I tried this and it didn't work. Every success is nothing but a bunch of failures until you got it right. So everything that ended, for it to land just like I wanted it to land, I had to miss several times. So they said all they wanted to do was build a tower up to God so they could be one with God. Well, they had something mixed up in the theology, because of course you can't build a tower up to God, and even if they were able to build it all the way up to space, that doesn't mean they're going to be there with God. But that was what they were thinking. I've had some ideas that are just as bad as that. But at the time, it seemed like it made sense. But it's fine. It's okay to have an unfinished tower, because when you walk away, now it was what's worse, for them to walk away from the unfinished tower, or for them to just double down and insist and keep on building. There's a time where walking away is leadership, where embracing the chaos is really the wisest, most holy thing we can do. Because at the end of the day, so they tried to build a tower up to heaven. Maybe I've tried to build a tower up to heaven before, but the beauty is we don't have to build a tower or attempt to build a tower up to heaven, because the truth is we're already there. The tower that is to be built is a tower of consciousness. It's a tower of perspective. It's a tower of choice. It's a tower of thought and action. And so, the folks in Genesis wanted nothing more than oneness with God. God said in Isaiah, "Behold, I do a new thing. Do you not perceive it?" And in a moment of prayer here now, moment of treatment, at all times, God is doing a new thing. We acknowledge that only constant is change. We acknowledge, we have the ability to grab things, take it over. Yell at, intimidate, fire, change, whatever we want. But yet the way of the universe, the way of God, is constant change, is seeming randomness and chaos. But then the scientists even say there must be some order in this chaos. Maybe we can't perceive it yet. But then what is faith except trusting in the chaos? Seeing the order, knowing it is well in the midst of the storm. Facing as a nation, I'm not sure we're not under attack. And it is well. We know that we can expect the unexpected, that this is God's way. And let us make it our way too. Remind us with that spirit of joy, that spirit of spontaneity, that spirit of the unexpected. We reap it, that we sow it, that we embody it. To create not just what we want to see, but to create the fullness of what the divine I am is. It may look like chaos to human eyes. It may look like the unknown, the unseen. But as we embrace it, as we move forward, that we can know truly it is well, and as it is well in our souls, it is well in our world. Amen. Ashe.